All right, I think I see you. So there's a little button that says mute in the bottom left corner, and then there's a little button that says video.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
Yes,
both.
Yeah, I can't see you. I can hear you.
All right. There we go.
So, Anna,
I'm Tiffany.
I'm Tiffany. Cool. Good. And so tell me, is Sam, or how do you connect with Sam?
Sorry, you're kind of cutting out a little bit. 1 second.
Okay. I'm gonna turn up my volume.
All right. Does that help?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
So you're working with Sam, Calvin, my good friend, rock star. Yeah.
Her.
Okay. Is she teaching your class? Is that?
Yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wasn't exactly sure what the connection was, but beautiful. Yeah. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
So exploring naturopathic medicine and what's next. Where are you at in your schooling?
So I'm a junior. Yeah, which is still kind of like I have time to figure stuff out, but also like it's dwindling down, and I'm like I don't know. Someone please help.
It's a good time to start thinking about what's next. So.
Yeah, and I'm a sophomore.
Nice.
And I'm a health sciences major, minoring in nutrition.
Great. Beautiful. Okay, love it. And then what caused you to end up at ASU?
It's close to home for me, and also I was offered most aid here.
Good choice.
Important, but like being here, there's so many opportunities that I cannot even begin to, just because I'm just coming across them now. And Samantha is really, really good at like connecting people that are just kind of lost in the crowd, and I'm like lost in the crowd, and I think she feels that too. And so she definitely pushes you in the right direction, and and that's how we had a meeting, and I was like, I don't know if I want to go the allopathic route. Like, I'm not sure. And she started throwing out these ideas, and I was like, but I'm taking these classes, and I think naturopathic medicine is like something that's like top contender, if not like number one at the moment.
Beautiful. Yeah. And just similar interests. How did you hear about naturopathic medicine?
Well, for me, like my family has been kind of into that. Like I've had like my aunt who is from and lives in China is a naturopathic doctor there.
Beautiful.
My family from that side is like really interested in it, and I went to China once and I really liked it, and all those alternative medicines I think are really interesting.
Yeah.
Complementary alternative medicine. To me, like before I started college, like I really didn't even know that existed. Like I didn't know that was a form of care for anyone until I started dabbling and taking classes that introduced it, and I was like, that's crazy. You're telling me that this can treat this without having to like take any medicine? Like which that to me has been like the most amazing part. And just every time I learn about something, I'm like, wow.
It's exciting. Yeah. Okay. So you're both, that's amazing. You're both kind of naturally curious about holistic medicine and the whole world and what it would look like, the whole journey. There is a school in Arizona, so you wouldn't have to move far as well. It's in Tempe.
Samantha was kind of talking, I think you were there when she was talking to us about it too. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it's like really close.
Yeah, it's called the Southwest College of Naturopathic Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, CNM. So good school. I had friends who graduated from there. That school in particular has a track So when you do the ND program, I believe you also learn acupuncture as well. And then you have to take the boards in acupuncture to practice. And Arizona has a really wide scope in terms of what you can do. I mean, like we're trained in minor surgery. You can do medical procedures that are like cutting people open. You know, it's a little bit like Arizona has a lot of opportunity. You can really do whatever you want there. And then I think in Arizona that medical marijuana is also a thing that you can do as a doctor, as a naturopathic doctor, which isn't available in other states. I don't know anybody who's doing it, but I just know it's a big deal there. So
Very interesting.
yeah, but cool. I'll just tell you a little bit how I found naturopathic medicine in my journey, and yeah, a little bit about the training and what that process was like applying. So I was an undergrad in Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Sam and I both grew up in the same hometown in Wilmer, Minnesota. So that's where we met and really hit it off. She was a go-getter from the start. And, yeah. So I went to undergrad. I had a biology major, and I was pre-med, and I was going to be an MD. That was the plan. I had the grades to do it, and I was excited about health and wellness, and I kind of found a lot of changes in my own life through nutrition. I did a lot of tutored at 3 different universities, and I just saw this connection between cognition and nutrition, so like how the brain functions and the ability to learn and focus. And so I was like, this is really interesting. I'm really passionate and excited about learning more about this. And I had job shadowed a few doctors at the time. I think it was in my 4th year of undergrad. So I job shadowed an internist, a PA, and a rheumatologist. So kind of primary care facility settings. And after those 3 job shadowing opportunities, I was kind of disoriented to what I saw, because I was walking into office rooms with the doctor, and we had like a really fast appointment, 10-15 minutes, and they were already on 6 medications and sent them out on a 7th kind of thing. And then I saw that repeatedly happening, and there's definitely a place for medications, and I do think that they're indicated in certain times and places and can be really helpful and life-saving. But I just saw, like, for the chronic illnesses that exist in America, that I wanted to be a part of a medicine that was helping people regenerate and really get better and feel better and like change their entire cellular makeup through the work that we're doing and for the better. So I changed my major for a quarter to dietetics, because I was like, I can't do that. I can't see myself doing the MD route. It didn't seem fulfilling or satisfying. It felt really stressful. And I do have friends who went the MD route, and I respect them, and I like more power to them. And I think that can also, be a great route. But I think the difference is it can be a lot more intense. And then for me, I knew that if I were to take that route, that I would be feeling a lot of resistance during that training, knowing that I don't want to be prescribing tons of pharmaceuticals, and I want to work on lifestyle and diet with patients. And we don't, in modern med school, you don't really learn about nutrition and botanical medicine and herbs and drug-herb interactions and all that. So I found naturopathic medicine, and then I changed my major back to pre-med. And then I ended up applying to school in San Diego. It's a naturopathic medical school in San Diego. It was fairly new at that time. It had only been open about 3 years, so there wasn't a lot of students who went through the program. It was a smaller campus. The bigger school was in Seattle. And I got accepted in San Diego, ended up going to Seattle just because I had better teachers, it was more established, bigger library, more resources. So I did that. I did the beginning part of my training there, so the first 4 years, and then I went to San Diego, and I did a clinical year in San Diego. So I saw patients in the clinic. there, and then I graduated in San Diego. But yeah, what can I tell you about the application process? Was not super difficult because I had already done all my prereqs. Biology major was like kind of a given. You had everything done that you needed. And then just, there's an interview, which is not crazy, but it's definitely something to think about. And then I can't remember if there was any other things. I just know the classes, the prereqs, and then send it all your application and everything, and then they schedule an interview for you. And then you fly out and do that interview. And then if you're accepted, then you have plans to go to school there. But yeah, what questions do you have about the training, the actual like 4 years of school?
So how is that built? Because we know, I don't know, I'm sure like when you look at medical school, I think, and I also started off with like, not pre-med, but like the route to go to medical school. And then I was like, I don't know, maybe nursing. I don't know, maybe something else. And I went back. But so like the medical school, it's like 2 years of classroom and then like 2 years of clinical stuff. Is that like kind of how naturopathic medicine set up?
Yep. Naturopathic medical school is pretty much the same. You do have classes almost until the day you graduate, but it becomes less and less. So like your 4th year, I think I had oncology and rheumatology, which is like a couple hours a week, so you're always learning until almost the day you graduate in classes. But yeah, the first 2 years are basic sciences. You're in a cadaver lab, you're doing cadaver dissection, you're doing anatomy and physiology, biochemistry, all of those basic sciences. And those are a lot easier if you've taken, like there's some kids or some people in my class who didn't take biochemistry in undergrad. And so biochemistry is really hard in school. And then, yeah, so it's set up the same way as a conventional medical school. The difference is we have more nutrition training. We have a botanical training, so you can learn how to formulate products, which is actually really fun. Everybody loves that class. So they take you in the lab, and then you're formulating all sorts of, you can formulate capsules and supplements and teas and tinctures and all sorts of medicine, really. So that's cool. I really enjoyed that part of the training that you don't really get in conventional medical school.
Yeah, that's something that disappointed me about medical school was that I was learning from my nutrition professor that medical students only need one nutrition class, which I thought was crazy because like there are so many chronic illnesses that are related to people's diets and lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the fact that doctors like aren't really studying that is crazy to me.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's so wild that sometimes that isn't even a consideration when you go into the doctor, taking a diet diary and looking at, in not only that, but it's like what someone is eating, they might not even be absorbing all of it. So I'm finding like protein deficiency, nutrient deficiencies in people who are taking plenty of vitamins, but they're just not absorbing it. So that's where, it's knowing the biochemistry and knowing kind of the physiology of what's happening, absorption, nutrition. Yeah, it's really critical. I agree. So
yeah, talking about like the diet thing, there's this documentary series on Netflix, like Just Came Out Diagnosis. I don't know if you've watched it or not.
What's the name?
Diagnosis.
Oh, I haven't. Need to.
This doctor in New York, or you have?
I haven't, but I need to.
Well, the first episode was like, I think the most interesting one. But so the doctor in New York who takes cases from the United States that like, patients that cannot be diagnosed no matter what, like they've gone everywhere. They're like millions of dollars at this point in debt, right, basically, but they can't figure out what's going on. And there was this one girl who, she's really young. She's like 22 years old and she could not get out of bed. Like she was in so much pain and like she would be, I guess, sort of stable, and then she would just like double over and just like pain in her joints, pains everywhere, just shooting pain.
Mm.
Took her, this doctor who like writes about her case, puts it on the New York column, the Post, and so other doctors get to see it from all over the world. And it took her all the way in Italy, this doctor who offered to pay for her flight and to test her. And it ended up being that she had, I don't know the full name, but CPT disease, CPT2. But basically she couldn't metabolize fatty acids. So her doctor was the one at fault for not being able, for her pain. And so all she had to do was like change her diet, and it would like incredibly decrease her pain. So I was like, that is crazy. Like, this girl has been dealing with this since the moment, like, you know, when you're in high school, you start eating all like these junk foods and all these started when she was like 12 or 13, and then lasted to 22 years old. And it's because of her diet. She couldn't metabolize a certain
Wow.
That's
That's a wild story. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, can you imagine being the doctor to finally discover that, and how life-changing that is for your patient when you figure that out for them? I mean, that's a game changer. So
a change of diet. There's like no medicine. That's all you had to do. And I was like, this is crazy. This is why, like, I was like, you know what, this is interesting. I have to look into it more.
yeah, that's not an uncommon story, in the fact that there's certain nutritional changes that would probably make a big difference for people, but her condition was really severe with pain. So wow, I need to watch that documentary. It sounds great.
Yeah, it's a documentary series. There's a whole bunch of people that like had their cases read by the doctor, and yeah, that one to me like stood out definitely, because that's so rare.
So rare.
Yeah, the chances of getting that, when you look at the statistics, I'm like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I remember learning about CP1, CP2 in med school too. It's like a biological path. It's a pathway. Yeah, but wow, that's cool. And you have the opportunity, you know, being a doctor, you're in a position of authority and power when people come to see you. And so it takes a really special person to be a doctor, to be able to hear stories and not to be able to emotionally, you know, carry that home with you, and let that kind of manifest as stress in your own life, but also just using that authority, that power to help people. You know, it's really crazy when, you know, like my signature would get somebody something that they couldn't get themselves, that could possibly heal their body or help them, or, you know, take away pain or whatever it may be. So it's an honor and a privilege, and it's also really cool to be a doctor that, you know, you learn so much about your own health too, because there's a healer's journey that happens for every doctor too. Like, I've gone through my own health stuff, being in med school and under stress. And so you learn so much, and the best, you know, the best wisdom comes from personal experience. So you can talk to your patients about, yeah, I've been there, you know, I've been stressed. I know what that feels like. I know what the adrenal fatigue is like, or what have you. So, yeah, it's really cool. You know, I can run all my own labs on myself, and I can prescribe myself things that boost energy. And yeah, like one of the cool things that I'm really excited about, that, like, I love nutrition, I love botanical medicine, I love gut health, I love, you know, all of that, but there's such cool things coming out in the world of holistic medicine and like longevity. There's peptides now that I'm using with people that help to like lengthen your telomeres, that help, essentially you could live longer doing that. There's certain things that improve brain function, peptides. There's like peptides that increase your growth hormone, which is what keeps you youthful. And they have very few side effects. And, you know, it can dramatically change somebody's life when you can use some of these therapies. So that's really amazing. In addition to all the lifestyle, you know, pieces that we have time. So first patient visit with me is like an hour, and the second follow-up is usually like 45 minutes to an hour, and we spend that entire second follow-up going over labs. So it's really in depth. We look at usually blood labs or stool or saliva, looking at cortisol levels, looking at anything that might be out of range, and then addressing that with lifestyle, diet, supplementation. We can use, like if somebody's anemic, I can use B12 shots. If somebody is not absorbing nutrients, like at all, in their gut, we can use IV therapy, which is where we're infusing a bunch of B vitamins and nutrients into their veins, so that they absorb it, and not through the gut. So yeah, there's some really cool, like very cutting edge, but also like very grounded in the way that we've been treating medicine for thousands of years, so I love the blend of those together. Yeah.
So what type of patients come into your clinic?
Yeah. Question. So every doctor kind of picks like a niche or something that they want to focus on, because we're trained as a primary care doctor, which means you learn everything in school. You learn geriatrics, you learn pediatrics, you learn kids and elderly people. You learn oncology, you learn rheumatology, just joints. You learn it all. So you usually pick kind of a tract or something that you specialize in. I do a lot of women's hormones. So testing and treatment for hormone imbalance. I can prescribe bioidentical hormone therapy, which is, we can find fluctuating levels through menopause, and then we're able to adjust those levels to alleviate hot flashes or mood swings or hair growth or any number of symptoms. So I do that. And then I also work with men. I can prescribe testosterone, which as you age, you drop 1% every year after age 30. So that's really common for men. And it helps. We find that these hormones are really protective for women. Estrogen's good for the brain, and it's good for the bones, and it's protective against cardiovascular disease. So these are actually really preventative and helpful therapies for people. But and then I also am able to do IV therapy. So that's kind of the procedure side. So I have the consult side where I see patients, and then we set up, that 1 hour initial appointment and then follow-up appointments, and, face to face, and kind of talk through what they're experiencing. And then the other piece is the procedure. So the IVs, or offering some of the vitamin injections, which can be used for recovery and skin health and beauty and anemia and all sorts of things. So yeah, so that's kind of the main thing. The other thing that I was trained in, and you can opt to be trained in this, I did like additional training in bioidentical hormones, and then also in regenerative medicine. So that's the joint injections, where they can regenerate your connective tissue. And they can also do that on the skin. So out here, especially in LA, I'm in LA right now, and a lot of people get cosmetic procedures or Botox, and we have things in natural medicine that we can use instead of that. So we can use your own blood, and we blood draw, and we can use what they call microneedling pen, and they'll put that serum, so your own blood, on your skin, and they'll let it heal. It looks like you have a sunburn for a couple days, but after that, you literally have a baby face. You like glow of youth, and because it rebuilds new collagen. So we can use all these things, modern technologies, as well as, botanicals and treatments that are millennia old, to help people get better and feel better, even beauty, look better, things that can help metabolism. And so it's really exciting. There's a lot of directions you could take it, really. Yeah.
What would you say is the most difficult part of your job?
Ooh. I think boundaries is probably the one, because being either in a clinic or having a setup where you always take work home with you. As a doctor or a medical student, like you always have things to do. It's either emails or follow-up or looking up treatment plans, or there's always something to do. And to be able to step away completely and just give yourself the time and space away. It's almost like being an entrepreneur a little bit, where you're literally could do work 24/7 and never give yourself a break, but you need to step away and eat and live and sleep and have fun. And so yeah. And then like patients will email you late at night, um, patients will email you, and then you could potentially spend hours replying to emails alone and not actually seeing patients, and you're not paid for that time. And so having really good boundaries is probably the most important thing. And then also, I hear a lot of intense stories. It's a beautiful thing, because people can come to me and 5 minutes later, we just met, share the deepest part of their story, and it can feel like being a counselor in that sense, because health journeys and health stories can be really heavy and have a lot of a lot of emotion and to them when patients are in office. So I think for me, it's rewarding to be there to support them and to listen and to be able to offer them something that's going to help them feel better or help with hormone balance. But definitely like not taking that home with me, and really being able to like be compassionate, but not let those kind of continue to exist in my world and my mind when I leave the office. So yeah, we also have a counseling shift in Seattle, so it's like a 12-week rotation where you see patients for counseling too. So that's a part of it. They do have counseling. We have classes in med school where you're learning about counseling, about the patient interview and how to handle tough situations. So they definitely prepare you for that too.
In the medical school, naturopathic?
Yeah, naturopathic medical school. Yeah, we had, I think, 3 counseling classes and then a counseling rotation. So,
that's something that's not necessarily seen with regular medical school.
Right. Not, I don't know that they have, so their rotations are a little bit different. They have, like if you're going to be a psych, you're going to be in the psych ward, or you're going to be doing a lot of work in that world, you're doing more of the rotation. You like pick a tract almost. But in naturopathic medical school, everybody gets kind of some counseling training, which is great.
That's great. I feel like that also helps with like what's called bedside manner, like sort of thing. Because I mean, you read a lot about like some doctors who just don't like are really dry with their patients and are kind of in and out, and that's it.
Yeah.
And I think to me, that's why naturopathic medicine is also very interesting, because like you're saying, you're spending an hour with your patients, whereas I work at a clinic and the doctor there spends like at the most like 15 minutes. It's like the goal.
Yeah.
And if they go over, it's like, oh, what happened there? But that's so personal, and it's something that I just want to be hands-on, but I don't know if I want to like be the person here prescribing these awful like medicines for things that could be treated naturally.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. The bedside manner is more important than you would think too. So that's a great point. Yeah, patients will come back to you just because they felt heard and understood, and like you really wanted to support them. So I think that is underappreciated too. And obviously, we want to be good at what we do and assess the situation and give them something that's really going to be helpful. But just being someone who listens and understands goes such a long way. And just sometimes people haven't shared what they share with you with anybody else in that depth. And so it's very like sacred in that way, that you're kind of holding space for them. There's a lot of shame that comes with certain medical conditions, or that they're feeling a certain way, or like mood, or any number of things. So I think it's really important to have that counseling training too. Yeah. 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 Go ahead.
I just know the more we talk about, I'm like, I'm so curious. As far as like your clinical practice, how is that set up? Because I know with like integrative health and like complementary healthcare, sometimes they have like an MD and they have like a chiropractic there as well. And is that something that you guys do? I'm not.
Yeah, so I have a bit of an interesting situation. I am at a clinic in Hollywood where there is an MD who oversees and he does a lot more of the stem cell therapy and some of the joint injections, which I can also do there as well. But yeah, there is an MD in that clinic, and then me, actually 2 other naturopathic doctors there, and then a nurse and our front desk staff. So that seems to be a good blend, and it's yeah, I like the situation that is there. And then in Redondo Beach in California, where I'm at, I see patients in private practice. So I have a space that I rent out, and I contract it out and pay for the space, and then I just meet my patients there. So that is a very different scenario than like this high-end, beautiful, ritzy, right on the Hollywood Boulevard office with an MD, and a lot more aesthetics and things like that. So when I see patients here, I'm doing a lot more of the gut testing and the hormone testing, and then meeting and following up on how they're doing, how they're feeling, what are the symptoms, and then adjusting treatment accordingly. Or sometimes there's so much to cover in one visit, like we have to work on each system of the body at once. So if they have adrenal issues, we address that. And then like in the next visit in a couple weeks, we address like more of the gut picture. And then, we'll look more at the hormones. So you could literally like spend a whole year going with someone over different aspects of their health, and just improving and finding areas that, this isn't working, let's do this, running specific blood labs, looking at what's going on. So yeah, that my private practice is more, I don't know, more of the labs and the functional medicine consults and things like that. Yeah. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Do you run your own tests in the lab? Like, are you like performing that research yourself, or do you have like other people to do it instead?
Great question. So I can draw blood, and that is one thing that you learn quite well in medical school. I know I hated needles going to med school. Oh, I didn't like it. Like growing up, cried every time I got a shot, just didn't like it. But they ease you in, and they make it really comfortable. And so you have like a whole year where you learn how to draw blood, and you learn how to give IVs, and you learn how to do vitamin shots. So intramuscular injections like testosterone or B12, things like that. So yeah, so all that to say, I know how to draw blood, and I can do it in my office, and I have the supplies to do that, but I usually send people out. It costs like $6 or $8 for a draw fee at LabCorp. And so, yeah, I just can go on, order it. I get a piece of paper that's a requisition, a test requisition that I send to them with my signature on it. And then they can just schedule an appointment on labcorp.com or Quest. There's different labs. Quest has a draw site. LabCorp has a draw site. I send them there. Like the appointment takes 10 minutes. They just draw your blood. They have all the paperwork, and then they, you're in and out in a couple minutes. So that's a really easy option. If you don't want to draw blood, there's a lot of doctors who like don't want to actually do that in their office because it takes time. After you draw the blood, you have to wait 20 to 30 minutes, and then you have to spin it in a centrifuge. And then after you spin it, I mean, you have to print off their requisition and get their insurance card information. I mean, you have to pack it up, you have to call FedEx, you have to tape the box. I mean, you have to process the blood. So that takes another like 2 hours. And if you only have that one sample, you're around the office to do that. So I just send them out, and it's easy for them to get it drawn at LabCorp or another place, and then they'll fax me the result. So I get an email that says, hey, here's the results are in, and then I can just open it on my computer and then review everything really smoothly. So yeah, it's not hard. But then I do all of the lab analysis, like they teach you how to do that in med school, what do labs mean, and then I have a software that I plug it into that gives a beautiful printout explaining, it's like a 60-page PDF that explains what the labs mean, what are the areas of dysfunction, what are the top 4 areas or systems of the body that are compromised that we need to work on. So that's kind of the system that I have. Every doctor has a different system, but that's just what I do. So yeah, definitely.
In terms of like, these are the 2-part questions, but like cost and stuff like that, is there a major difference between the cost of that patients pay for going to see like a naturopathic doctor versus a regular clinic? I mean, you're both doctors.
Yeah, an MD. Yeah, definitely. Great. That's a very practical question, because that's one big deciding factor for some patients in coming to see you. You know, cost is a factor. So currently in the state of California, naturopathic doctors are not covered by insurance, most of them. A lot of them are cash-based. There are clinics that do accept insurance, but the process to do that is, I mean, you have to hire, for me, I have a private practice here in Redondo. So I would have to apply for insurance, and then I'd have to wait, 1 to 3 months to get approved. And then I'd have to hire and pay another separate salary to someone just to do the billing for all the insurance. When you're in a big medical facility, like a hospital or a clinic, they have, billers and people who do that. But it becomes intensely more frustrating to do that when you're a private practitioner because of the costs, and then have to pay, another salary in addition to mine. So that is definitely an obstacle, and I think that'll change. So there's a shortage of primary care doctors. I'm not sure if you knew that, but in the United States there is a huge shortage. A lot of doctors are specializing, and there's not enough primary care doctors to go around. So there is a huge incentive. We're licensed in the state of California and in Washington and many other states, but there's going to be legislative changes in order to meet that demand, and naturopathic doctors are going to be a part of the group that meets that demand, because they can't put students through med school fast enough to meet that demand. So I think the insurance policies are going to change around that, but currently I am cash based, so people who come to see me pay cash to see me. And my the fee that I charge, so it's $400 for the first 2 visits, so $200 for the first, $200 for the second, and that's an hour of my time with the patient for the first hour, and then the second visit is going over the labs, the results, doing the treatment plan. So all in all, that $400 is about 6 hours of my time. So 2 hours with the patient, and then I'm sending in a lab requisition. I'm looking over the labs. I'm coming up with the treatment plan. Any other like charting, I have to follow up and do all of my charting for them. So yeah, so that's it. It depends what doctors charge, I feel like that's a pretty fair price, like anywhere from $250 an hour. A lot of doctors will charge like $250 or $300 for their first visit here in LA or in San Diego. I've seen anywhere up to, there's doctors in Beverly Hills and Santa Monica that are charging $650 for their first visit. So it just depends where you're at and what you offer and how many years you've been in practice and everything. So definitely over time, my fee scale will go up, you know, based on offering more things and having more experience. So that's pretty standard. But yeah, the one great thing is that naturopathic doctors can take FSA, which is an HSA, which is the health savings account. And there's a lot of employers that are doing that now for their employees. So it's like a credit card that you have for your health. And you can spend those dollars however you want. So naturopathic doctor visits are covered. Labs with naturopathic doctors are covered. IVs are covered. B vitamin shots are covered. I think even hormones are covered. Bioidenticals. So there's a lot of, and massage and PT, a lot of alternative kind of healthcare is covered under that, and a lot more people do have an HSA account. So that's also a good thing. So people can use that to see me, or they, you know, they just budget that money, or they're in a position to be able to afford it. You know, like I tell people, like, there is nothing more valuable than your health, really. Like, you could own a nice car and a iPhone and all of this, but like if you're unhealthy and you're miserable, like people will pay anything and do anything to get better, right? It's like it impacts every area of your life. So it's definitely like running the labs, seeing a functional doctor, finding out a diagnosis, doing the treatment plan in accordance to get through that health obstacle is 100% worth it. Like every dollar that you spend towards your health is well invested. I mean, it could impact your number of years that you live. So it's all in perspective. I mean, people will go spend $400, you know, at the movies and the zoo and traveling to San Diego or whatever, you know, like it's easy to spend $400. So I try and, you know, have that conversation with patients too. Like your health is really, truly is the best investment. So if that involves paying cash and seeing your doctor, or paying cash for labs that are going to be helpful, as much as possible, we try and get it covered by their insurance, but like especially labs, but not always. And then what I do is I price shop among labs. So I have a lab that runs panels for a couple bucks, and then they just have to pay the lab draw fee. So I just send them for the basic panels, and they don't have to, you know, I always consider the patient's financial situation in whatever I'm recommending to. I'm not asking them to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on anything, but we're picking the highest yield for whatever they're going through, and then, you know, thinking about the cost. They don't really teach that as much in school. I think in my clinical hours I saw a lot of that. Like I was in a community clinic in Seattle and San Diego, and we did have a lot of patients coming in, and it was like, I can't barely afford to buy a $20 supplement, or like $100 is a lot to spend on XYZ treatment that's actually going to help me get better. And that was hard because you know, the health disparities kind of mirror the financial disparities sometimes. So which is where, you know, I think it's powerful to bring holistic medicine and naturopathic medicine to, you know, communities where it's really needed, absolutely needed. So, and I got to be in some of those communities, underserved communities. So it's really beautiful and powerful, but it's hard when there's a financial constraint around what you can do, but it's totally workable. Like I've worked with a lot of patients on that, and we find something that works for them. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to your
Yeah. But that kind of like forms like the type of patients that come in. What's like I guess the major reason why someone's coming to see you?
Yeah, so they're going through menopause. They have insomnia. They have hot flashes. They have mood. Just like feel like they're going crazy. They feel like they have vaginal dryness. They have any number of menopausal symptoms or gut issues. So they're having like constipation, diarrhea. They're having acid reflux. They're having they have like symptoms of adrenal fatigue where they can't get up in the morning. They're wired at night, and their whole circadian rhythm is off. That's definitely a place where naturopathic doctors shine, is in adrenal health and gut health. So those mainly. I don't see a ton of autoimmune patients or oncology. I don't really specialize in oncology. I have done IVs on oncology on cancer patients, but mostly women and like ages 20, 25 to 65, 70. Yeah, that's kind of the main population that I see. But, it depends. I have a good guy friend who's a naturopathic doctor, and he does only testosterone therapy, a lot of hormones for men, and he sees all men. So your practice is kind of formed around who you are too, I think, and what you're trained in and what you're passionate about. So, yeah.
Would you say your patients are more receptive to your treatment, like recommendations? Because I know like in more like traditional, or not like traditional, but like in hospital settings, some patients will like refuse the treatment, not just because of like financial reasons, but because like they just don't want to deal with, what they're facing. But do you see a different story in that?
Yeah, the other thing about being a cash-based clinic is I see patients who really want my help. They really want to get better. And when we go over the labs and when we're like talking through kind of the pathophysiology, or what I'm explaining to them, okay, this is what's going on with your biochemistry, and I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you how we can address it. Yeah, they're generally really receptive. They're sometimes like have questions, but that's fine. Like I'm happy to, I'm happy when people bring me questions or want to know why and are curious about, what's happening, why am I taking DHEA, or that's natural for them to want to know why. But they're all really receptive, and they want to get better, and they want to, fix the issue. I think, what I've seen too is people come to me knowing that we're gonna find the true essence of what's going on, the root of the issue. And so they might have, a lot of times they've been thrown some sort of medication. Like I have insomnia patients who come to me, put on like tranquilizers, and that didn't help them sleep. That's a really strong drug. Or some of the really intense sleep meds that are addictive, like Ambien. And so they come to me and they're like, these haven't helped me. What's going on? And we look at their cortisol levels and their hormones, and we're like, no wonder you're not sleeping, and no wonder the meds didn't help, because they didn't actually fix the root problem, which is the cortisol imbalance and the melatonin. So then I explained to them that like we're treating what your lab says is really off, and so this is going to help, and it's not overnight, but we're treating what's really underlying all their other issues. And usually I can almost verbally explain to them how the cortisol is related to the blood sugar is related to the gut issues, is related to the hormone imbalance. Like, we can literally go in a circle and find out, wow, everything really is kind of linked in what you're experiencing. And so I think that also makes them like, we connect the dots for them. Oh, no wonder, like all this actually makes sense. And so they trust that the plan is also gonna produce a result and change something for them. So yeah.
That's definitely like a huge extra step, because that is definitely a huge problem even with medical care today, where like the doctors treat symptoms. So if you go in there, I can't sleep, I'm so tired, and so they're going to prescribe them a tranquilizer, and they're not going to like take the extra step. And then also like preventative care, kind of, because like you're looking at your like biology, and why can't I like do this and all these things. Like, yeah, it's definitely an extra step that's missing from a lot of the care that's being given today.
Yeah, I think it's a real strong point for the kind of medicine that I get to practice. So yeah. Anything else?
I feel like you've answered like all the questions
that I had. Like my brain was like, like going back and forth.
You have some really great questions. I can tell you've thought about what this process is. Do you know any doctors personally that you've just had conversations with about what it's like to be in practice? Or
like naturopathic doctors?
Anything?
My godfather in Mexico, he's now retired, like primary care doctor. Is an amazing doctor. Like he is actually like his patients relatively low income, and so he would never like deny anyone care. But he was like, okay, I'll see you. We'll figure out what's going on. I'll give you the medicine if you need it. And then like, but I don't have money. Like that's fine. You come back, and they would always come back, because that's like you're not gonna find that type of care anywhere else. And would kind of give him payments and stuff about like around that, or like they would bring him like gifts in between, very much like family oriented. Eventually they would pay everything, but like he would not put such a rush on it. Like if he saw someone that's really in need, he wasn't going to turn them away.
Wow.
And so, yeah, like he's been amazing. Right now he's retired, but like he's dealing with his own health issues. But like that definitely has always like, why aren't more people like this?
Yeah, that's impeccable. That's a phenomenal example too.
Yeah. I don't really have much experience like with a lot of doctors. Like I have some family members who are, but I haven't seen them since I was like 12. So I didn't really ask them questions about being a doctor when I was 12.
Yeah, no, I'm just curious. Yeah, so this is great because you get to pick a doctor's brain for a bit.
Yeah, and in contrast to that, like I do work at a clinic right now, and it's, I don't know how to pronounce, but he's like an ear specialist, not ENT, but like
Otolaryngologist.
Yeah, his name's Dr. Markson. I feel like he's here. He's an amazing doctor. Like he's like one of the best specialists in the ear in Arizona. But he's very much like in out with his patients. Like he gives them care. Like I'm not saying that, but he's like, there's been a few issues there because they think he's rude for like not spending more time, and they just don't want to return. But definitely a prime example of like being in and out of a room and get them checked out.
And that, yeah, I mean, there's also a reason for that, because financially, like making, like when you're on an insurance-based model and you're in a clinic or, in a big hospital, like they have to do the 15-minute appointments to actually bring in the amount of revenue that they need to. But then that's like looking at patient care from a money standpoint and not from a like, we want to give them best care that we can. So
he's definitely always booked, and like the insurance part is such a huge hurdle, and I'm like, why do people do this? I think that's a big deterrent too. I'm like, I really don't know if I want to do stuff with insurance as much, because it's rough.
It's really unfortunate. Like I think we'll see more of it being in practice, but it's crazy how much the insurance companies are profiting the
Mm.
doctors are not being paid what they're worth, and the
Mhm.
patients aren't getting better as a result. And so it's like an endless cycle of they're making a lot of money, the doctors are overworked and underpaid, the patients are suffering, and it's an injustice, I think. The whole setup that's happening, and people pay thousands of dollars a year, $100 a month for their health insurance, and I understand the reason, like the way that it was set up, and like the reasoning behind it, but um, it's been, yeah, we're the sickest country in the in the whole
Yeah.
world, and our healthcare system is not the best in the whole world, and neither is our insurance system. So I think there's going to be a lot of changes in the next 5 to 10 years as well, as a lot of people are seeking out a functional medicine doctor, a holistic doctor, a naturopathic doctor. They want to figure out what's really going on. They're not getting answers at their conventional medicine practitioner, and there's initiatives that are nationwide to do different alternatives. So there's one called New Health, KNEW, and they're doing a nationwide initiative to do like cost sharing, which is like insurance. It's similar, but you save hundreds of dollars a month, and it's the insurance companies are not profiting. And you're getting better care. You're seeing practitioners like me that are covered. It's a different model. So I think that that's going to grow and change in a lot of ways. So, yeah.
Every time I talk about healthcare in America, I get so discouraged. So I take a class, and every time I'm done, I'm like, why?
Oh,
But that's like, I don't want to feel that way. That's why when you look at naturopathic medicine, it's like a whole different like game at this point.
it's a whole different game entirely. Yeah. It's like that quote. What is it? Is it Gandhi's quote? He's like, be the change you wish to see in the world. So the biggest thing that you could do is to, like, for me, become a practitioner. So then I'm like a force for good and not on the dark side, right? So anything that frustrates you, that drives you crazy, is the best place for you to work in, to speak out about, to move in that direction because you're passionate about it. So that's, yeah, it's a good sign, actually.
That's a great piece of advice.
Yeah.
Really.
So yeah, I will just like the process of school is, I mean, it's rigorous, and it's intense. Like med school is wherever you go, but I do think that being a naturopathic medical school, there is a lot more focus on self-care, sleep, take care of yourself, practice what you preach. Like I felt encouraged to do that even in school, in clinicals. I didn't have overnight shifts where I had to stay up all night and cause all sorts of blood sugar dysregulation, and that comes along with that. And when you're in an MD school, you do have to do those like overnight rotations and things that frankly are terrible for anybody's health to stay up all night. But much less like be a practitioner and telling our patients to sleep enough and not doing it. I don't know. So there is definitely an emphasis, although it is rigorous, although there's a lot of learning and a lot of science involved. I do think that there was a lot of encouragement to use the things that you're learning, use the botanical medicines, use the formulations that you're creating, use all of the knowledge that you're gaining to be healthy yourself, so that your patients can see that in you, because that just being a living example is inspiring for patients too. So that was a big differentiating factor between MD school and ND school for me too, is I was like, I know that I'm going to be able to sleep and live and work out and like go out and hike and have friends and do fun things too, and not like ruin my own health and my own body in the process. So that's what I'll say. And then the other thing is, like, I've seen it's really helpful to enter med school healthy, because I've seen some people who enter chronically stressed or chronically ill, and the process itself can do that to you. So I think like working with a practitioner, or like figuring that piece out and really boosting your own system before you enter medical school is pretty important. Especially like I went from undergrad to med school. I had a month break between them. So I literally hadn't had a gap in education in like 10, 11 years. So yeah, I think like the self-care is really important too, in the schooling and in being a practitioner. I mean, for me, myself right now too, I'm preaching to myself too, like the self-care and being a living example of that is really, really valuable, I think too.
Does a naturopathic school allow you to work while you're studying? Because I was touring this one med school and they said like you're absolutely not allowed to have a job while you're here. So is it kind of the same? Because money could be like an issue for me. Like should
I'm definitely allowed to work during school. I work during school. Yeah, gosh, I was a waitress, barista, for a bit. That like part of it was like during my summer off, but no, I worked in financial aid. I did landscaping on Saturday mornings for this lady who lived near school. Like I definitely, you can Uber, you can do anything you want to make money, and I advise you to. I think it's smart. It's helpful. Even if you're just covering like some of your basic living expenses and like spending money, I think it's really, really great. Yeah, no, you're totally allowed to work. And then the other option with the naturopathic medical program is that you can do it in 4 or 5 years. You don't have to do it in 4. So if you want, you can extend it to 5, which makes it a little bit more livable and breathable. And like, if some people end up doing that because they have a baby, or they have a life circumstance come up where that just makes it really hard to finish a year or something, and so they'll end up going to the 5-year track. And it's honestly, it can be a lot healthier to do that. Depends on the person, depends on when they're starting the program, but yeah, I definitely. So if you did like a 5-year track, you could definitely work while you're in school, and that would not be a problem at all.
That's good.
Yeah, and there's opportunities on campus. There's a job forum board, at least for last year, where they're posting stuff all the time about jobs for students, opportunities on campus. There's some like even virtual things that you could do, like for certain companies that are looking for medical students. So definitely there's opportunity for that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, are you looking at staying in Arizona, or is there a place that you kind of would rather be?
I'm good with going anywhere because I am also like an out-of-state student. Like I'm not from Arizona.
Okay.
So I'm really fine, moving wherever. But I do want to stay in the States.
Okay. Yeah. So there's a number of schools. Just depends where you want to be, and might be weather, whether you're close to family or something. So yeah, I went to Seattle. There's a San Diego school. There's a Tempe school. There's a Chicago, Illinois school. There's one on the East Coast, and there's a bunch in Canada. I'm probably missing 1 or 2, but yeah, there's more. California, Washington, Arizona. So yeah. How about for you? Is family? Do you have family in Arizona?
Yeah. So yeah, I was raised in Arizona. I was born in California, but been here all my life. And then, I don't know, wherever. I don't mind moving though. Canada, but I'm definitely open to exploring other options. But I'd probably apply in Arizona, but I don't know because I'm would love to be a place.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I loved the Seattle campus. Was beautiful. It was really gray and dark there, for about 6 months of the year. So that kind of got to me. But if you're used to Arizona and you love it, I mean, the Tempe school is nice, but then San Diego's like, get a little ocean in your life, so you got options for places to apply to. You can apply to all of them, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Someone please take me.
See which one you like better. So, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Well, I mean, feel free to always reach out to me if you need a recommendation, if you are looking, if you have questions about the process, about schooling, about anything involved, and if you end up pursuing that route and getting accepted, like, please let me know, because I'll celebrate with you. Yeah, but of course this is like all informative and hopefully really helpful for you in thinking about next steps in your journey. And yeah,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome.
We're like excited and confident about this route.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and it's always changing in a good way. Like, there's always new opportunities for practitioners. We have full licensure, and we're working on full scope, which means that we can do full prescribing rights and a lot of other pieces that come with that. So there's always, naturopathic medicine is not going away anytime soon. It's definitely expanding and growing, and you can really do whatever you want with it. So yeah, cool. All right, thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Great rest of your day. Yeah, and of course, reach out to me anytime. Tell Sam hi.
Of course.
I haven't seen her in a long time. Okay. All right.
Bye.